Stuart Butterfield, Slack, one of the fastest growing startups in the world right now, worth billions, said, I'm more paranoid now than when my company wasn't working.
Right.
And so I think that the folks at home believe that if they're stressed out or they're hustling and it's not working.
It's a different type of stress, right? Climbing up the mountain is a whole different level of stress because you've got this goal. You're trying to get up the mountain, right? And you've just got this single focus of trying to do it. And then when you're there, you realize that, okay, I'm there, but now everybody's trying to kick my ass. So everybody's coming after you, which is when you're chasing somebody, it's a different set of stresses than when you're being chased. It's the NBA versus the NFL. You look at the NFL, 20 years ago, the franchises were leaving in the middle of the night. They were a mess. For a variety of different reasons, things change. And now, they're being chased. And you just see how everybody bangs on them. In the NBA, we're chasing them in some respects in terms of audience and things like that. And growth. Yeah. No, we're growing faster, but they're just so much bigger, right?
Okay.
But all that said, they're still the king of the mountain. And when it comes to sports, entertainment, TV, and people just want to take shots at them, including me, right? And so it's a different set of stresses. Daily fantasy sports, they're cranking along. Everybody thinks they're killing it. And then, some idiots in government come along and change it for them like that. And so when you're climbing up the mountain, when you're chasing success, when you're trying to establish yourself, that's one set of stresses that is overwhelming or very, it's considerable. But when you're at the top, you're looking down and you see more things. You're more cognizant of everything around you, and that creates a unique set of stresses that is difficult as well. But I'd rather be at the top.
Give me one more thought on risk. Basically, that's what we're talking about right now.
I'm risk averse. I'm very risk averse.
So is the advice to freelancers and entrepreneurs to not take risk? Or
no, the risk is to be prepared, right? The more prepared you are, the less risk there is. Most people think, I'm just going to wing it, and that's why it's risky. I'm OCD in that I'm diving in, learning everything I can. If you walk in the room and you don't know more about your business and industry than everybody else, that person who knows more isn't saying, here comes Chase, I'm just going to let him beat me and put me out of business.
Another reason to scratch your own itch, because you have to want to know everything about the things that you care about, because if someone like Mark Cuban can come in and
I'm gonna kick your ass.
Know more than you in 5 minutes, that's a real problem.
Yeah, and so if someone else knows more than you do about your business or industry, what are you doing? How can you think you're prepared? How can you think you're not going to lose, right? Other than arrogance, right? Arrogance will shoot a business down faster than anything. The one thing you should try to avoid at all costs is raising money.
Powerful medicine.
Equity, sweat equity is always the best equity. If you can live like a student, if you can just make your investment your time and your effort and your brain cells, right, you have a far better chance of succeeding, because nobody gives you money, doesn't matter if it's me, a bank, or anybody, out of charity. Everybody wants something at some point. It may be 5 years, it may be 10 years. I'll give you a perfect example of that. Box.net, right, or Box.com now, right? Aaron Levy sends me an email, 2005, so more than 10 years ago. I gave him 250 grand because I was a customer. You talking about scratching your own itch. And they were charging me. It was like $80 a month to get storage, and they gave me more storage than everybody, 2005. This is great. So when he sent asking me for money, I'm like, I love it because you have revenue. Well, within 2 years, less than that, probably a year, they're in Silicon Valley, and they're talking to venture capitalists who want them to just attack the market. And they brought in somebody who wants them to just give it away and eat the loss. And I'm like, you're going to end up spending tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to do tens of millions in revenue. I don't like that.
That's backwards.
Yeah, that's backwards, and I'm going to get diluted to nothing. So I said, just give me my money back. I didn't even ask for schmuck insurance. I'm like, Aaron, you're going to go a different way. More power to you. I got my 250 grand back. He went on. Now they have $1.5 billion market cap. I think I've made. I probably would have made $2 million because I would have been diluted to nothing. I've made more of that money then, but just the stress, just the taking money and just continuing to take money changed who they are. So by the end of it, Aaron owns 4% of it. That's still decent money, whatever it is, right? But yes. 4% of $1.5 billion is $60 million. But he had a far better idea that if he just didn't chase it and chase investment, he could have been worth a lot more, a whole lot more.
Do you have any belief? Like I'll throw myself onto the bus here. So I led with, we made a profitable business out of Creative Live. We bootstrapped it, $0.
Yeah, you guys
had a super profitable business. We decided to grow faster, and we took venture. But after we had proven them all, had a profitable business.
But then your valuation is going to be different in what you give up. Yeah,
we can write our own terms.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So
then
you're
people
okay
are
with
coming.
that in
Yeah,
the
because
growth?
people are coming to you. Now the best situation is you don't need it, right? And you just grow organically, and you just put all the money in your pocket. It's like that was my first company, and even broadcast.com, I funded most of it, and it was only till we had people coming to us wanting to give us money that it was on our terms.
Yes.
And so, and then everything else since then I've funded myself for the most part, except when people wanted to give me money. So yeah, so sweat equity is always the best equity. The next best version of equity is customer equity, where you get customers coming in and buying from you, and that's how you're funding your growth, because that's a reinforcing and you get to keep the equity. Third is using Kickstarter, Indiegogo as a way to support you. The last thing on the list is venture capital money.
And that's from a capitalist.
Yeah,
From
a venture capitalist, right? And I'm more seed angel funding, but yes. Because they're not giving it to you for charity. And the minute you take that money, that's not the start, right? That's not the win, right? Yeah, that's not the win, right? That's when the obligation really starts. You thought you had an obligation to grow and build your business before you took money from a venture capitalist, vulture capitalist. You have no idea. And so many people, particularly in Silicon Valley, they party. I just raised X amount from so and so, like it's an accomplishment. You don't understand. When you raise money from me or anybody else, it's not an accomplishment. It's a reference of failure. That's the first time you failed because you couldn't do it organically, right? Now you don't want to go out of business, so you take the money, and that's fine, right? Because the option, given the binary option of fail or take another crack at it, you take the money. But you failed. You literally have failed because you couldn't grow your business organically. You couldn't get customers that were willing to pay you. You couldn't get enough of them, right? You couldn't keep your costs under control. People have such an overinflated value proposition on themselves. You're paying people too much. And you hear it all the time. It drives me nuts. We just hired the best so-and-so who used to be at bam, 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 bam startups. If they were all that good, they would have been through bam, 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 bam startups, or even the one or two that went public, or one or two that, and then part 5 to that, let's just say you're having some success. Well, we're not going to go public because we don't want the scrutiny. Go fucking public. Go public. Go public. Go public. Because you're ignoring your employees when you don't, right? You might be able to take money, which I hate. It's like the ultimate Ponzi scheme. Bring in new investors to pay the owners, right? The founders of the company, but the employees don't get paid, right? And go public so everybody has some liquidity. Your investors, your employees, your friends and family, whoever it is. And it just drives me crazy that people don't. And I think that hurts the economy. When broadcast.com went public, and then when we sold the next year, out of 330 employees, 300 became millionaires, at least on paper. And of those 300 millionaires, I got as many of them as I could to hedge, right, when they were allowed to hedge, so they kept it. And so it turned out really well. You don't hear the stories anymore of such and such a company had 100, 500, 1,000, 5,000 employees when they went public, and X 90% became millionaires or better now, right? Because I'm talking 15, 20 years ago. You don't hear those stories anymore.
You don't, you're right.
And that's horrible.
That's one of the reasons people sign up to go work real hard, is to be able to cash out.
Get that end game, right? I mean, and you talk about self-awareness in Silicon Valley, it's just horrible. So so when I make those investments, I try to extract the Silicon Valley out of them. I try to wipe clean the Y Combinator. Oh, and that, since I'm on a roll, right?
Yeah, you're crushing right now. Just
business plan competitions. Don't do them. Well, I take that back. It's okay to do them because you might win some money. But if you come in third out of 1,700 business plans, nobody cares. If you come in first out of a business plan competition at your school, your region, your whatever, nobody cares. It doesn't.
You haven't done anything.
Right. It doesn't mean anything, right? You just out of all the options, the judges happen to like yours more. Now, if you walk out of there and the judge says, "I'll write you a check for $100,000," great, right? Or better yet, I'll be a customer and I'll spend $100,000. Amazing. Yeah. Then that's good, right? So when people say, yeah, I entered this business plan competition and I won third and I won $1,500 or $15,000, that's great, right? But how many of the judges gave you money? How many people became customers? How many people paid for and bought your product or used it enough, where they created revenue for you? The next one is accelerators. I got into this accelerator. Yeah, they just took 6% or whatever, and they give you 150 grand, and you get to work here with all these other people who got put into this accelerator. There's accelerator inflation, right? The early days of Y Combinator weren't bad, right?
It was a powerful vehicle. Yep.
Because there was just one of them, right? And they were really picky, and they weren't arrogant yet. It was just a good idea. Now, there's an accelerator for coffee cups. There's an accelerator for best plants, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. And so you've got to really, it goes to the self-awareness point. You can't say, hey, I'm in an accelerator, I've accomplished something. You haven't. Yeah. Not only is it just the start, it's also an admission you can't do it by yourself. And not that you have to do it by yourself, and not that there aren't resources available that can be good, right? I'm not trying to detract from that. But at the same time, the cost to create, and they're typically geared towards technology companies, right? The cost to create a technology company, you need a phone, probably a laptop or a desktop, decent internet connection, and an Amazon or some cloud, some cloud connection. That's it. That's it. If you have a job with a tech company, you can probably steal all that, right?
And do something rather than nothing is the thing that I get back to all the time. That's the 0 to 1 group. That's like, you're paralyzed. You will learn by doing.
Teach yourself to code. If you go through the process of learning how to just do JavaScript, just teach yourself JavaScript and just start creating things. You'll find one of those things could be, okay, that's the start of something. And then you'll have something to show. And then you'll have a jump off point to go from 0 to 1. But you got to do it, right? To your point, you got to do something.
Do something instead of nothing. I know better than to try and stop you when you're on a roll, but I want to be respectful of your time today, brother. And anything you want to tell the folks at home before we...
Just a reminder, download CyberDust. It's even in Windows Store, Apple, Android. Add me at Blog Maverick, BLOGMAVERICK. Add me at Blog Maverick on there. Ask me questions.
Thanks, brother.
Chase, buddy, really enjoyed it. Thank you.
That's about a wrap.